My TNA Genesis 2011 pay-per-view review. The pay-per-view just went off there, and I gotta say, it wasn't a good pay-per-view from TNA, but I gotta say, the way they ended the pay-per-view with the impromptu title match, and you got a new TNA champion and Mr. Anderson. What they did was, the main event was the #1 contenders match. Well, that's what it was looking like. That's going to be the end of the show. Anderson won the #1 contenders match. Then Bischoff came out there and announced that your title match is going to be right now. Jeff Hardy comes out there. He's wearing his street clothes, and they wrestle probably for about 10-15 minutes. Anderson hits the mic check onto Hardy and becomes the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion. So I'm not the hugest Anderson fan, but it is kind of good to see Anderson as World Champion because he's very over with the crowd. He's very charismatic. He's a solid worker, and I think he has what TNA should want as like the whole package of full package of what a wrestler needs to have, and I think he does have it. Hardy, I think, just as long as Hardy shows up, he's good, but Hardy had a terrible title run in TNA, so it's kind of good to see the title off of him. And that kind of did help the show a little bit. Still, it's not a show I would say go out your way to check out. It's still a pretty lackluster show from TNA because other than that right there, pretty much after the first hour of the show, or the first 3 matches of the show, it pretty much completely goes downhill after that. But other than that, you know, the surprising title change at the end with Anderson becoming champion, and the other things you had that was good. You had a good opener on this show at the X Division Championship, and the best match on here was the tag team title match with Beer Money versus the Machineguns, which really shouldn't really surprise anyone because them two teams have very good chemistry with each other. So let me get into my review. The opening matchup was Kazarian versus Jay Lethal for the X Division Championship. Started off very good back and forth action. Kind of slowed down in some parts of it, then picked up towards the end. Crowd was really into this. It's a good way to start the pay-per-view. Kazarian ends up picking the win up in this match after he hits the reverse tombstone pile driver onto Jay Lethal for the victory, and he becomes the new X Division champion. Pretty good match, solid way to start the pay-per-view. I would give it about 3 1/4 stars. Then the next matchup was for the Knockouts Championship. This was Mickie James versus Madison Rayne. I gotta say, this was actually going on to be a pretty good women's match. Now, the one thing that's probably going to hurt this in some people's eyes is the way they ended the match. It's the only problem I really have with this match, because it was actually a pretty solid women's match. It was a little better than the average, you know, Divas Knockouts match that you would normally see. So it was going on fairly well. Then at the end of the match, towards the end, you saw Victoria Tara. She came out there, and then she pretty much distracted the ref. And then in the ring, Mickie James was in the ring with Madison Rayne. And then Madison Rayne pretty much used a loaded glove or something to hit Mickie James, and she retained the championship that way. So Mickie James and Tara look like they're going to be contending their feud. Now, this is the thing that I really got to question TNA for doing right here is, obviously this is a way they continue and build more heat with Tara versus Mickie James, but it's one of those types of feuds that the Knockouts title should be on the line, and Madison Rayne is not doing anything with the Knockouts Championship. I mean, this is actually the first time in 3 months that the Knockouts Championship's actually been online at the pay-per-view. The previous 2 pay-per-views, they had Mickie James versus Tara in a women's match without the Knockouts Championship, pretty much that taking the backseat. So I don't like the idea of Madison Rayne as champion. They should have given it to Mickie James right here, so then they could have had Mickie James and Tara in a feud. They could have had her come out here and attack her post-match or something, or try to cost her the title, then she ends up actually winning. That's the one problem I had here. And the ending was, you know, it was going on as a good match. The ending kind of hurt it, but I would still say it was a pretty decent women's match, 2 1/4 stars. Then the next matchup was easily the match tonight. I think going into this pay-per-view, this was the match everyone was looking forward to. Probably the one thing on this pay-per-view people knew that was not going to disappoint at all. This was Beer Money Incorporated versus the Machineguns for the TNA World Tag Team Championships. A very good tag match. These two teams have very good chemistry. These two, whenever they take on each other, you're guaranteed to have a very good tag team match. This was it. Some people might have a little problem with the finish of the match, because the finish was kind of anticlimactic. But other than that, it was a very good tag match, and not the best Beer Money versus Machineguns match, but still a fairly good tag match between these two. Really enjoyed it. Then the match comes when you saw Chris Sabin, he accidentally hit Alex Shelley. That kind of distracted him. Then Robert Roode pretty much rolled him up, and that was the end of the match. So kind of a little anticlimactic finish, and hopefully they don't break up the Machineguns, even though Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin would do good in the X Division as singles competitors. They work so well as a tag team. They need to stay as a tag team. So hopefully this is just something they did right here, and this is not signaling a breakup. Hopefully they don't do this, and this was easily the match of the night. I'll give it probably 3 3/4 stars, maybe even 4 stars. Very good tag match right there. Then after this is when it goes downhill, and here in the next match, I think most people would understand how it went downhill. The next matchup was Bully Ray, Brother Ray versus Devon. Wasn't a good match at all. Was not looking forward to this. This probably, other than maybe one other match on here, is probably one of the worst matches of the pay-per-view. You just could not get into it. It was fairly boring, just dragged on. And the match ends in disqualification. Brother Ray wins this match via disqualification after Devon uses the chain onto Brother Ray in this match, or Bully Ray as he's called now in TNA. And then after this match, pretty much brawl with each other, and obviously this feud's going to be continuing. So unfortunately, we're going to have to see another Devon versus Brother Ray, or now Bully Ray, matchup in TNA, which obviously I knew this wasn't going to be the end of the feud right here. Unfortunately, we'll have to see them again. I would probably give it, I'm probably being pretty fair here. I'll give it 1.5 stars. Just could not get into it, and wasn't a good match at all. The crowd was actually into it, so that's probably the only good thing there. Crowd was kind of into it in certain parts. Then the next matchup, was going to be the TV Championship, TV title match with Doug Williams versus AJ Styles, but then it got changed at the last minute. Earlier in the night, you saw Eric Bischoff with Ric Flair and AJ Styles backstage. AJ Styles said he is injured and cannot compete tonight, so they had to find a replacement, so they replaced him with Abyss in this match against Doug Williams, which was something that really sucked this had to happen. Now, I don't know if AJ was legitimately injured or was just to say storyline injury, because he did come out here during this match and it looked like he might have been selling it, or I don't know if he's actually hurt. I guess we'll have to find out there if he's hurt or not. But Abyss replaced him in this match, and that was the real problem right there, because AJ Styles and Doug Williams, they had a very good match at last month's pay-per-view, and they worked very well with each other. And I was kind of looking forward to seeing them again, and unfortunately we didn't get to see them again. We get to see Abyss and Doug Williams. These two didn't have a terrible match, but I would say they didn't really completely mesh well with each other. It was just a match you would see on Impact, not a match that's pay-per-view quality, I would say. That's probably the best way to explain this match, and Abyss wins this match. After AJ Styles, he comes out here, the ref's not looking, hits Doug Williams with the TV title belt, and then Abyss hits the Black Hole Slam to become the new TV champion. So right there you're seeing, obviously, right here, all the titles are in the hands of the Immortals right now, because they won the Tag Team Championship, won the X Division Championship, and won the TV title right here. And then, obviously, later on, they do something else that makes them not have the World Heavyweight title anymore. Then the next matchup was RVD versus the mystery opponent that the Immortals picked. Obviously, everyone knew going into this pay-per-view who it was going to be. It was going to be Matt Hardy, and TNA obviously knew, everyone knew this, so they pretty much gave it away even before Matt Hardy came out there, because they had Bischoff and RVD backstage. RVD was saying, I want Jeff Hardy tonight. I want him. I want to take him on. And then Eric Bischoff pretty much said, I don't think you're going to like what you get here. And obviously trying to tell you that you're not going to get Jeff Hardy, but you're going to get Matt Hardy. So they kind of gave it away there. But everyone knew anyway, so it didn't really matter. Matt Hardy did get a very loud pop when he did come out there. Him and RVD didn't have a great match, but I would say it was at least a watchful match. Pretty decent match with each other. Started off okay, and then it kind of went downhill a little bit, then picked back up. It was just a watchful match. Nothing really special at all, and I don't really expect much with Matt Hardy and TNA at all. Maybe we'll get to see him and Jeff Hardy team up again and maybe take on someone like the Machineguns or Generation Me. At least that'd be something cool to see, them take on those teams at some point since they're both in TNA right now. RVD picks up the not RVD, but Matt Hardy picks up the victory in this match after hitting the Twist of Hates in this match. I would say about a 2.5-star match. It was watchable. It was decent for what it was. Then the next matchup was probably what I would classify as the worst match of the night. Yeah, even worse than the Brother Ray versus Devon match. This was the Jeff Jarrett versus Kurt Angle Double J MMA. It was going to be MMA Challenge, but they changed it to MMA Exhibition. This terrible thing right here. It's fine if wrestling companies want to have MMA elements in, within their wrestling matches, but don't go out here and try to actually have a, either MMA match or a boxing match or something like that, because it makes you look like a complete joke, and that's what they've done with this whole Jeff Jarrett thing. Just makes TNA look like a joke, makes Jarrett look like the joke, and just is not something that makes your company come off good, because theoretically with this, MMA fans are not going to watch this, and wrestling fans, if they want to see MMA, they're going to tune into UFC or Strikeforce or anything else other than wrestling if they want to see MMA. It's fine if you have, moves and stuff involved in wrestling, but doing this is just idiotic, and it was just terrible. It goes to the third round, and it gets stopped because Angle's completely busted open. He was bleeding heavily in here. The match ends. I think maybe Jarrett was using open fist in this match, and it ends right there. So then after that, you hear Jeff Jarrett say, "This is the end. I'm still undefeated. And I'm ending my MMA career as undefeated, and you're going to see my retirement party this Thursday on Impact. Me, you, and you know who else, which obviously is going to be Karen Angle. I guess she's going to be coming back on TV, and I guess they're going to have her involved yet again in the whole Jarrett versus Angle storyline. So I guess we'll probably see that this coming Thursday on Impact. I wouldn't even give this I was about to say give this an A, but I would say this was a complete dud. That's how bad it was. Just something that was terrible and should not have been on the pay-per-view. It got Angle back on TV, I understand that, but other than that, it was completely terrible. Then the next matchup was the #1 Contenders match. This was originally going to be the main event, but obviously after this, we found out what happened after this. Matt Morgan versus Mr. Anderson, #1 Contenders match. Wasn't a terrible match. I'm kind of glad that what they did after this, they actually had a world title match, because this definitely wasn't a good way to end the pay-per-view, having these two main event the pay-per-view. So glad they didn't do that. Anderson picks up the victory in this #1 Contenders match. Then after this, Eric Bischoff comes out here. He brings a chair with him, so you think he's going to hit Mr. Anderson. He sits down on the chair, says, "Your night is not over, Mr. Anderson. Your title match tonight with Jeff Hardy is going to be happening right now." Jeff Hardy comes out here still wearing his street clothes, pretty much, making this look like a surprise since he wasn't wearing his wrestling gear. And it was a pretty good surprise seeing this right here. These two worked pretty well with each other, considering it was just a match they just pretty much threw it out there at the last minute. And good back and forth action with them. It was a fairly good way to end the pay-per-view. These two didn't have a great match, but for the time they were given, it was at least watchable, and it was much better than ending with Matt Morgan versus Mr. Anderson. And within this, Bischoff tries to get involved. Anderson hits the mic check on him. Then Jeff Hardy gets in there pretty much right after that. Hits Jeff Hardy, not Jeff Hardy, but Mr. Anderson hits the mic check on him. Picks up the victory, becomes the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion. So TNA starting this year, crowning a new TNA World Heavyweight Champion with Mr. Anderson as new champion. Don't have really no problem with him as champion. Jeff Hardy just wasn't working really good as champion, and really he wasn't showing up for his matches. They didn't really. It wasn't really Jeff Hardy's fault. It was really just the opponents they put him against. I mean, his matches with Matt Morgan were just completely god-awful. And, you kind of could blame one of those definitely on him not showing up. But he just did not have a good title run within TNA. Hopefully Anderson can do better. Obviously, the crowd really likes Anderson. So this is probably a very smart move on TNA's part right here, is having Anderson as champion. He's probably one of the most over guys in TNA. He's very charismatic. He's great on the mic. He's not a great in-ring worker, but he's a solid in-ring worker. And he pretty much has the full package of probably what TNA wants. Or, when he was with WWE, surprisingly, they actually released him because he actually pretty much has what WWE wants, the complete package. So this probably will work out for TNA. Be interested to see where this goes right now and who's going to be his first opponent at the next TNA pay-per-view and what his first feud's going to be. Are they just going to have a rematch with Hardy at the next pay-per-view, or is he going to be taking on someone else? So we'll just have to wait and see. Like I said, this was not that good of a TNA pay-per-view, but like I say, crown the new champion, having the tag team title match earlier in the evening, and the opening match kind of helped the pay-per-view at least not go in the territory of being like one of the worst pay-per-views ever. I know there'd probably be some that would probably give this pay-per-view probably like 3, 4, something like that, but I probably would give it at least a 5, maybe 5.5, because you had some good stuff on here, but there was a lot of weak stuff, especially the second hour of the show. The second hour of the show was just completely god-awful. And the ending of it, having crowned a new champion, like I said, that kind of did save it a little bit. It definitely helped out the show. That right there helped. The tag team title match helped it, and the opening match helped the show. So, like I said, I give this show about a 5.5. And yeah, that's it for my TNA Genesis 2011 pay-per-view review. All right, peace.